Welcome to problem number 34 from the June 2015 Algebra Regents exam. In this question, we've got an equation that shows the weekly earnings of an employee at the Hamburger Shack given by W of x, where x is the number of hours worked. And we can see that there are two different possible equations. It's either 10x or 15 times x minus 40 plus 400, depending on the value of x, right? So if x is the number of hours worked is between 0 and 40 hours, you would use 10x, and if x is greater than 40 hours, then you would use this other equation. It's kind of like working overtime, right? If you work over 40 hours in a week, then you get paid extra, at least normally. So determine the difference in salary in dollars for an employee who works 52 hours versus one who works 38 hours. So let's start off with the one that is working 52 hours. So since 52 is greater than 40, we're going to be using this part of the equation. 15 times x minus 40 plus 400. But instead of x, we're going to replace that with the number of hours, which is 52. So it'll be, hang on a second. So it's 52 minus 40, and then plus 400. 52 minus 40 would get us 12. 15 times 12 is 180. And 180 plus 400 is $580. Okay, so now we're going to compare that to the person who worked 38 hours, and because 38 fits between 0 and 40, we're going to use the 10x equation instead. So that's going to be much faster. We're simply doing 10 times 38, and that would get us $380. Now, we're not quite done, though, because we had to determine the difference in salary. So the difference between these would be if we subtracted them. So 580 minus 380 gives us a difference of $200. So that's the answer to the first part of this question. Now, for the next part, it says to determine the number of hours an employee must work in order to earn $445, and explain how you arrived at this answer. Now, we have to first figure out which one of these equations we're going to use. If we use the 10x, notice that, again, the maximum amount of hours worked possible here is 40. And so that means if we did 10 times 40, $400 is the maximum you could make without working overtime or over 40 hours. So because that's not as high as 445, we know that that equation's not going to work. So instead we have to use this other one. So let's go ahead and write that out. We'll have 15 times x minus 40 plus 400. And we're going to set this to be equal to the number of money that we're trying to get to, 445. And now we're just going to work through and solve this equation. So I can take away 400 from both sides, canceling that out, and we'll get 15 times x minus 40 equals 45. And then we can divide both sides by 15, canceling those out, and we'll get x minus 40 equals 3. And last but not least, we would add 40 to both sides here. And we would get that x equals 3 plus 40, which is 43 hours. So the employee would have to work 43 hours in order to make $445. And it does say to give an explanation of how you arrived at this answer. And so you can just see what I typed up here as a possible explanation. Just said that I set the second equation to equal the amount earned, $445, and solved for x, which is the number of hours worked. Okay, that's all for this video. Thanks for visiting JD's Regents Preparation.